It was Monday morning, and we were sitting at the kitchen table. We had just finished breakfast. I was drinking my coffee and reading the morning newspaper when my wife Beatrice said, "Did you put the newspaper down, Rob? I need to talk to you." I put the newspaper on the table. "I'm leaving you, Rob. I want a divorce." "Is that all?" I asked. I picked up the newspaper again and started reading the sports section. "I'm serious, Rob." I ignored her, and she got upset. "Damn it, Rob. Put down that damn newspaper and talk to me." "About what?" I asked. "I have nothing to say except goodbye. It's not that big of a loss, anyway. You haven't been worth a damn as a wife for over a year. So go." I put down the newspaper, stood up, and went to the room I used as a home office. I took a notebook and pen from my desk and pulled an envelope from one of the drawers. I returned to the kitchen table, sat down, and on the top sheet of the notebook, I wrote, "Tom, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank God she is leaving me." I was about to put it in the envelope, but then a thought occurred to me. I took one of the lottery tickets I had bought the night before out of my wallet and placed it in the envelope. Then I added to my note, "Maybe if you get lucky and win, it'll be enough to keep the cheaters satisfied so she won't cheat again. Good luck, kid. You're going to need it." I signed it, "A very grateful Rob," folded the sheet, put it in the envelope, sealed it, addressed it, and handed it to Beatrice. "When you see him, give him this." She took it with a shocked expression on her face. "You know, just because you think I'm ignorant doesn't mean I actually am," she said. "Perhaps," I said, taking the envelope back from her, "I should mail it myself. I don't trust that you won't open it, read it, and then throw it away. Now, why don't you go pack your things and get the hell out of my life?" "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving out just so you can move your lover in," she retorted. I stood up, poured coffee into a travel mug, topped it off, and headed to work. On the way, I stopped by the bank, closed our savings and checking accounts, and took the contents of our safe deposit box. Then I went to a bank closer to work and opened new accounts in my name only. Next, I called and canceled all our joint credit cards and arranged for new cards in my name only. After that, I got on with my day-to-day work. I stayed late after work, had dinner and drinks with my executive assistant, and told her that I was back on the market if her sister was still interested. Stella laughed. "To hell with my sister. If you're single again, I want to be first in line." Stella started with me as a secretary 10 years ago and proved so valuable that 4 years ago, I promoted her to my assistant, and then, to justify the promotion I felt she deserved, I made her my executive assistant 2 years ago. One Sunday, I had a backyard barbecue and invited Stella. She told me she couldn't come because her sister was visiting from out of town, so I suggested she bring her sister along. Her sister, Tara, was a very busty, sexy-looking blonde, and on Monday, Stella laughingly told me that Tara had a crush on me. I laughed and told her never to mention it to Beatrice because Beatrice could be, and sometimes was, insanely jealous. Now, Stella tells me she's interested in me. I had never had any idea she could have such thoughts. "All right," I said jokingly. "Then Tara moves to second place and you can take the first." "I'm not joking at all, boss. I'm dead serious. I want to give it a try." "Stella, you might not agree when you hear what I have to offer." "What exactly?" she asked. "She wants a divorce," I said. "So I'm leaving it to her and her lover, and I have no idea what their schedule might be." "Her lover?" Stella asked. "She slept with the guy about a year and a half ago, and I think she finally decided that a few days a week with him isn't enough, so she decided to go full-time." "How long have you known?" "A year and a half. I knew almost from the day it started." "How did that happen?" "A friend of mine saw her going into a motel room with a man and called me. I hired a private detective to follow her for a week, and he got me all the information I needed." "A year and a half. And you did nothing about it?" "What was I supposed to do? Get angry and turn my life upside down? In this state, divorce is no fault. Everything would have to be split in half, and I'd have to sell the house and split the proceeds with her. I'd have to give up the pool, the hot tub, my woodworking shop in the 3-car garage, and move into some apartment. No, thank you. I decided to just ignore it and let her cook for me, do my laundry, and keep the house clean. How could you be around her, knowing she was cheating on you? You'd be surprised how quickly love can turn to hate, and then hate turns into indifference. I can't believe a healthy guy like you could go a year and a half without sex. Who said without sex? As long as Beatrice was offering, I was taking. And she continued, though the frequency did decrease somewhat. I didn't touch her on the days I knew she was with him, but other than that, the only change was that I stopped making love and just had sex. Do you have any idea why she did it? No idea, but he probably wasn't the first. You think she had other lovers? I can't know for sure, but what I do know is that in the 10 years we've been married, she fell into a certain mood 4 times, as far as I can remember. For a time, she acted the way she has been for the last year and a half since she got involved with this guy. It's just a guess on my part, but I'd almost bet that the other times were for the same reason. If she hadn't been seen and I hadn't been alerted, I would have taken the recent mood as just another one of those women's things. Maybe I'm wrong in my thoughts, but it doesn't really matter. I know for sure about this affair, and that's all I need to know to understand she's a cheater. What are you going to do now? Wait. Wait for what? To see what she plans to do now that she's on her own. I emptied the bank accounts, canceled all her credit cards, and told her to get out of the house. She wanted a divorce, so I'm leaving it up to her. Since she doesn't earn enough to support herself and pay a lawyer, she'll have to get money for a lawyer from her lover, and I don't know if he'll give it to her. I assume they discussed this before she hit me with it, but I have no way of knowing. I'm just saying, if you're really interested in me, you'll be involved with a married man who has no idea how long it will take before he gets divorced. You're thinking about this the wrong way, Rob. How so? If she files for divorce, she'll be in control. You'll be served, and that could be bad. You have no idea what she might do. They might order you to leave the house and give it to her pending the hearings. What if she files and claims mental and physical cruelty and gets a restraining order keeping you away from her and the house? You need to set the pace, boss. You need to be in the driver's seat. Make her react, not the other way around. Besides, you'll be helping me a lot. Helping you how? If you're going to wait and let her file, what if she doesn't? What if her lover doesn't give her the money for it? That would put us in a position of adultery, and she could use that against you in the future. You say she cheated, and she says, so what, you did too? If you file, you're stating that from your perspective, the marriage is over, and what you do from that point on is none of her business. Legally speaking, you'll still be married until the divorce is final, and being with me would technically still be considered adultery, but no court will hold that against you if it doesn't start until after you've filed for divorce from Beatrice. So it seems I need to stay away from you until either you or Beatrice takes legal action. If we wait for her, it could take years or maybe just a week, but it would be under her control. If you file, you could meet with a lawyer early tomorrow and serve Beatrice by Thursday. That would give me the weekend to work on winning you over. Winning me over? I'm dead serious, boss. What's the point of being first in line if I don't take advantage of it? She was right, and I knew it. So I pulled out my cell phone and used speed dial to call Josh. Josh and I had been friends since 3rd grade, and Josh was a lawyer who practiced family law. Family law was a polite term for divorce law. When he answered, I told him I needed his legal services and explained my problem. He was sorry to hear it because he and his wife, Sally, were our friends, and he liked Beatrice, but he told me he would take care of it as soon as he got to his office in the morning and asked me to come by at lunchtime. I could sign the papers and then we could go to lunch. Then, just to be a jerk, I told him I wanted a restraining order. I lied and said Beatrice told me that if I caused her any trouble for leaving me, her lover Tom Noble would straighten me out. Josh laughed and said he knew it was pure fiction, but that he would do it. You know there will be a hearing on this order within 10 days, right? I can get it and serve it, but there has to be a hearing before the judge will order it to stay in effect. I know, and I'm prepared for that, but right now the main thing is to get her out of the house and keep her out for a while. We don't have kids, so she has no real reason to use the house while the divorce is ongoing. I'm sticking to the principle of possession being 9/10 of the law. There's no reason for a judge to order me out and let her in. That's what I'm aiming for. I told her to get out when we talked this morning, but I don't know what I'll find when I get home. She might be gone or she might still be there. Since I can't be sure where she'll be, I plan to serve her at work. There's no chance you two could come to some agreement? None. Then I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up, looked across the table at Stella, and asked, "What do you have planned for me this weekend?" She laid out her ideas and they sounded pretty good to me. When I got home, Beatrice was sitting at the kitchen table, going through some papers. "Why are you still here?" I asked, walking to the fridge and grabbing a beer. "This is my house too. I'll stay here until I can make other arrangements. If you don't like my company, feel free to move out. And let you bring your lover here? Not in your damn life. Sit down and let's discuss what we're going to do," Beatrice insisted. "There's nothing to discuss. I know what I'm going to do, and I don't care what you plan to do. There are things that need to be worked out, Rob." "No, Beatrice, there are no such questions. It's simple. You said you want a divorce, so go and get it. You need to hire a lawyer, file the papers, and cover all the court costs. What I will do is fight you tooth and nail for every little thing. We live in a no-fault state. Everything is split 50-50, so decisions will have to be made about who gets what as their half. I'll drag this out to keep your attorney fees piling up. You know they don't work for free, right? You want the coffee table? Well, guess what? I want it too. You want the couch? Too bad, Beatrice. It has great sentimental value to me, and I simply must have it." "Why all of a sudden?" she asked. "You didn't seem to care about any of this. You didn't even show any emotion when I told you I wanted a divorce. All you did was tell me to pack my things and get out. That was before I had time to think about it." I looked into her eyes and took a risk. "I let you off the hook the first 3 times because you didn't want a divorce. I loved you enough to keep quiet and stay with you because you always came back to me." She turned away when I mentioned the first 3 times, which, as far as I could tell, confirmed my suspicions. "It's hard to say why I stayed with you now, but I didn't file for divorce. I thought maybe I did something that really pissed you off, and you felt you had to do this to get back at me. Eventually, you'd end your affairs, and I foolishly thought it was because you realized you loved me and came back to me." I looked down at the floor and took a breath before continuing. "I thought this thing with Noble was just a repeat of the previous times, but now I see I was wrong. I've come to understand that you're nothing but a lowly cheater, and if you hadn't decided to leave me for Noble and ended things with him, you'd be spreading your legs for some other jerk in 6 months or a year. Thinking about it, I decided I needed some form of revenge. What I really want to do is take a thick belt and beat you with it until your skin breaks and you bleed on the floor, but that would just land me in jail. The only thing I can do without ending up behind bars is to make this divorce as difficult and expensive as possible for you." "You're right," I admitted. "This is also your home, and if you've decided to stay, I have to let you be here. But I don't have to like it and I don't have to talk to you. Move your stuff to one of the spare bedrooms and stay the hell away from me." I finished my beer, then went up to what used to be our bedroom and got ready for bed. I thought I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had given her something to think about. She needed to discuss everything with Noble and make decisions which would take time that Josh would use to serve Beatrice and get the restraining order. I could be wrong. Maybe Beatrice had already met with a lawyer, and the papers might already be on their way to me. But it was likely that when I canceled the credit cards, the remaining funds in our account were about what I expected when I withdrew the cash from the bank. If Beatrice had seen a lawyer, she would have used our money to pay him. Of course, Noble could have paid the bill. All I could do was wait and hope that Josh took the first step. I got up and left the house before Beatrice came out of her bedroom. I went to a bed-and-breakfast type cafe for breakfast, and while sipping my coffee, I made a list of people to call once Beatrice was served. I wasn't going to let her make me the bad guy. I would tell everyone about the divorce and explain why it was happening. At work, Stella told me she was really looking forward to the weekend, and I found myself hoping it would happen. I met with Josh for lunch and signed the papers. He said he would go to the county building after lunch and file the petition. "You still want her served at work?" "Damn right I do," I said. "I think around 10 tomorrow. Call me as soon as it happens. I want the locks changed before she can come back home." I returned to work and arranged for the next day off. Before leaving the office, I called a locksmith and scheduled a quick service for the following day. It cost me a bit more, but I felt it was worth it. When I got home, Beatrice's car was in the driveway, but she must have decided to stay in her room and not get in my way because I didn't see her. The next morning, I got up and left the house before Beatrice came downstairs. I went to a bed and breakfast type hotel for breakfast. Angie, the waitress, asked me, "Where's Beatrice? I always saw you together, and here you are 2 days in a row without her. You won't see us together anymore. We're splitting up," I said. "I see," she replied, taking my order. When she placed the bill on the table, she said, "My phone number is on the back, not the restaurant's number, mine." I was speechless as Angie walked away. 2 women in 2 days let me know they were interested. So why wasn't I enough for the woman I married? I'll never know, because I'll never ask. I drank my coffee and read the morning newspaper, waiting for the time when Beatrice usually left for work. Then I went home and started packing her things, moving them to the garage. At 10:15, Josh called and said the papers had been served. So I called the locksmith, and within 20 minutes he was at work. It wasn't even an hour later when Beatrice's car came speeding up the driveway. She couldn't miss the wide-open garage door and the large cardboard sign that read, "Beatrice, all your things are here in the garage." She stood there staring at the sign for a minute, then tried to enter the house. But of course, her keys didn't work. She rang the doorbell, but I didn't answer, and eventually, she left. I peeked into the garage and saw that she had taken a couple of bags of her things. 2 minutes after she drove off, my cell phone rang. It was Beatrice. "Hello. You're an asshole," she said. "Did you really have to embarrass me in front of my colleagues?" "It's better than letting you humiliate me in front of mine," I replied. "What the hell is this restraining order crap? I was afraid you'd ask Noble to come and beat me up for being rude to you. That's bullshit, and you know it. I need to get into the house to grab some things," she insisted. "All your things are in the garage, Beatrice, and I didn't change the garage door code, so your opener will work. If what you need isn't there, make a list, tell me where it is, and I'll move it to the garage. Stop being ridiculous, Rob. You're making this much harder than it needs to be. Sorry, Beatrice. Causing you some inconvenience doesn't adequately pay back the years you tormented me, but I need to do something for my own mental health. Just be grateful I didn't get violent. Goodbye, Beatrice." After hanging up, I sat down with the phone and started calling everyone on my list. Most were shocked to hear that Beatrice had cheated on me, but 2 weren't surprised. One said, "Finally caught her, huh?" And the other said, "I always thought you had an open marriage. She was always out with some guy, and you never mentioned it." Beatrice's parents were the most affected by the news. They tried to tell me I must be mistaken. I always liked them, and they treated me almost like the son they never had. But I wasn't going to let Beatrice tell them her version and make it seem like it was all my fault. After dealing with the calls, I went through the house one more time to gather Beatrice's things, then made myself lunch. I had just finished eating when the guys from Aries Security arrived. Not trusting Beatrice in the slightest and having no doubt she would violate the restraining order and try to break into the house, I decided to install a security system complete with cameras. On Thursday, at work, I told Stella that we were ready to go for the weekend. She smiled. Then tomorrow night, dinner and dancing to start with. I was smiling when I got home. Beatrice did exactly what I expected. She took some of her things and then broke into the house through the connecting door from the garage. She trashed the kitchen. Plates and glasses were smashed all over the floor. In the living room, she broke several lamps. The cameras captured everything. What made me smile was the sight of her pulling all my clothes out of the closet, piling them on the floor, and then squatting over them and urinating on them. All of this was recorded, showing not only that she violated the restraining order but also acted maliciously and destructively, evidence I could use at the restraining order hearing. I called Josh and he contacted the police. The police arrived, took a report and snapped some photos. The next day, Beatrice was arrested at work and taken to jail. She was fingerprinted, photographed, and brought before a judge. She was charged with violating the restraining order and willful destruction of private property. The judge set a hearing date and released Beatrice on her own recognizance. Honestly, I was surprised it went that far. My date with Stella was fun, and we scheduled a second date for Saturday. It also went well, and on Sunday we went on a picnic together. On Monday there was a hearing for the restraining order. When the judge saw the security camera footage, he not only made the restraining order permanent but also ordered Beatrice to replace all the destroyed items, pay for the dry cleaning of my clothes, and cover the cost of cleaning the bedroom. He gave her 10 days to comply or face jail time for contempt of court. Just to be a jerk, I hired the most expensive cleaning company I could find to do the job. Beatrice disappointed me. She actually managed to get the money to do everything the judge ordered. I never got to see her jailed for contempt of court. The next 2 weeks passed and Stella and I met often, but nothing more happened beyond a few kisses, sometimes quite intense, because neither of us felt comfortable since I was still a married man. However, we were slowly approaching the point where things were getting serious. We did not contest the divorce, and it was finalized in 6 months. It was a standard no-fault divorce with everything split equally. I refinanced the house and bought out Beatrice's share. I had been saving money in a separate account for an unexpected round-the-world trip to celebrate our anniversary, and since she didn't know about it, I didn't give her a cent. She also didn't know about the last 2 certificates of deposit I had placed in the safe. I bought them with my last 2 bonus checks. I had one more small victory. Beatrice was awarded alimony for 2 years or until she remarried, but it was set at only $100 a week instead of the $500 she had tried to get. This was unexpected, and Josh told me it was because we were very lucky with the judges assigned to my cases. The judge who presided over the restraining order hearing and the judge who oversaw the divorce were not only cousins who apparently discussed their cases, but also both had cheating wives in the past. Neither believed that an innocent husband should be punished for the behavior of a cheating wife, and while they followed the law, they didn't go a step further than required. Whatever Beatrice had with Noble, it obviously wasn't that great, because 7 months after the divorce was finalized, she was living with her parents. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in a bar at the Hilton, drinking a beer and having a steak sandwich for lunch, when someone sat on the stool next to me. "Can I buy you a beer?" he asked. I looked over and saw my ex-wife's former lover. "I want to have a word with you," he said. Out of curiosity, I invited him to go ahead, and he waved to the bartender, ordering us both a beer. The bartender brought them, and he took a sip, set the glass on the bar, and stared at it for a few seconds before starting to peel the label off the bottle. When a small pile of label bits had grown in front of him, he said, "I didn't mean to screw things up for you." Still not looking up from the bottle, he continued. "The night I met her, she wasn't wearing any wedding rings, so I had no idea she was married, and she definitely wasn't acting like a married woman. She was at Bud's bar with a group of girls she worked with, and I asked her to dance. She agreed. I bought her a drink, and she invited me to sit with her and the other girls. I danced with her 3 more times and asked her out. She agreed. I fell head over heels for her, and within a month we were having sex whenever we could get together. At first, we had to use motels because I shared an apartment with 2 roommates, and one of them was always around. We couldn't use her place because she said she lived with her disabled mother. That was also why we couldn't see each other more often," he continued. "She supposedly had to take care of her mother and could only go out when someone else was available to look after dear old mom. I finally got my own apartment, so we didn't need to use motels anymore, although our meetings were irregular. I fell in love with her and was planning to ask her to marry me. I was going to buy a house big enough for us and her mother, but before I could propose, a guy I knew asked me why I was sleeping with a cheating wife. I was ready to beat him up when he told me that Beatrice was married and cheating on her husband, and that it wasn't the first time. It seems that 2 years before, she had cheated on you with his brother. When his brother found out she was married, he broke up with her. I found it hard to believe, but then I got your letter. I sat on it for a week, then confronted her, and she broke down in tears. She claimed she didn't love you, that you were an abusive drunk who beat her physically and tormented her emotionally. She said she hated you but was afraid to leave because you told her that if she ever did, you would track her down and kill her and anyone she was with. By that time, I had done some checking and realized she was lying, and all thoughts of marrying her vanished. But she was good in bed, and since you had kicked her out, I let her move in with me. As long as she was willing to sleep with me, everything was fine, but when the divorce was finalized and she started talking about marriage, I ended it. My parents split up because my mom cheated on my dad. She got custody of me and later remarried, but then she was caught cheating on her second husband. She married a third time and cheated again. I firmly believe in the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater, and I told Beatrice that. I told her that as long as she was okay with a friends with benefits relationship, we were fine, but nothing more. About 3 weeks after that, I came home from work, and she was gone. He took another sip of his beer and added, "There are rumors that you knew all along that she and I were together. Why did you let it continue and not divorce her immediately? You said it yourself. She was damn good in bed," I replied. I decided to just let it be. I'd have the sex and there would be someone to cook, clean the house, and do the laundry. It probably would have stayed that way if she hadn't told me she was leaving and wanted a divorce. He took another sip, then said, "I never thought I'd say this, especially to you, but I miss having her in my bed." He finished his beer, stood up, took something out of his pocket, placed it on the counter, and pushed it toward me. "What is this?" I asked. "The lottery ticket you gave me," he said. "It's a winner. This is your half. I waited to give it to you so you wouldn't have to split it with her in the divorce. See you around." And he left. I looked at the slip. It was a cashier's check for a substantial amount, a very, very large amount. When I returned to the office, Jan, my assistant, said, "You look like the cat that just ate the canary. Was lunch that good?" "Lunch was impressive," I said. "Oh, right, Jan, my assistant. Stella no longer worked for me, at least not in the office. She was home, painting the room that would become the nursery when the twins arrived.